So you know that feeling when you're searching for something and then moments later there's ads popping up trying to sell you that thing. You're like, is there somebody watching me? Am I okay with that? And I think it's similar to the feeling I have when, recently I was talking to somebody with Google Glass. And it's like, I'm tired of that person. And it's like, are you looking at me? Because I can't tell and I'm not okay with that.
I'm Tiffany Shlain. I'm a mother, filmmaker. I founded the Webby Awards. And this series is about how the future doesn't start somewhere far off in the distance. The future starts here.
I love thinking about this kind of stuff. And you know who else loves thinking about this kind of stuff? My husband, Ken, because he's a professor of robotics. Hey.
Hey.
So Ken, what is this all about? Why are we creating technologies that are getting more and more creepy?
Well, as our technologies become more sophisticated, they're becoming more and more lifelike. And that triggers a primitive reflex in us because we know it's not human, but it's too close.
Which is uncomfortable and kind of creepy.
Exactly. And there's a word for this. They call it the uncanny.
The uncanny.
And it's not just technologies that trigger this reflex. It's all sorts of things that are close to being human, but aren't. Like wax figures, dolls, robots, or zombies.
So it's like our body's response that warns you, pay extra attention. This might not be what it seems.
And the things that trigger this reflex fall into two categories. The first has to do with things that are lifelike. Is this thing real or is it artificial? That distinction has to be really clear or else we get creeped out.
Like those reborner dolls I just found out about that are way too lifelike and very creepy.
Right. And the uncanny explains the classic example of cartoon characters. Animators have learned that they can't make the eyes too realistic or they'll make us uncomfortable. Cartoons can't be too human. And the second category of things that trigger this reflex is surveillance.
What do you mean?
Well, you know that creepy feeling you sometimes get when you feel like someone is secretly watching you, like on
Like
those
the
websites that we were
like
talking
the
about?
ads
Exactly.
pop up, or this very creepy painting that's behind us that's been in our house forever.
Which painting?
This one. He's watching us.
Right, exactly.
And some of the most advanced software is getting too close for comfort. It's watching us like a hawk.
Or even more uncomfortable, that little camera on your laptop that can be hacked. I mean, someone could just switch on your camera and watch you without the green light turning on.
And the connection here is that they both raise uncertainty about awareness.
Is something aware of me or not?
Exactly. The uncanny describes our awareness of awareness.
So why are we drawn to things that give us that creepy feeling?
Because uncanny experiences sharpen our perceptions. It goes back to when we were hunters.
When we were out in the savannah, it was all like, am I about to be hunched on and killed?
Hunched on.
Hunched, like somebody gonna come get me and kill me.
Right. Which triggers our fight or flight instincts. Is this predator dead or just sleeping?
So it's rooted in the amygdala, the part of our brain that reacts to danger.
That's right. The uncanny reflex is deeply rooted in our brains and bodies. This was especially popular in the 18th century, the golden age of automata, when machines began to move like humans.
And wasn't that around the time that Gothic writers started exploring this theme in books like Frankenstein, the natural versus the artificial?
Right. And in 1919, Sigmund Freud wrote an essay called The Uncanny. He describes an old folktale where an evil magician threatens to steal a little boy's eyeballs, which is very creepy.
Because eyes are that crucial thing for knowing if something is real.
And that brings up this concept of the uncanny valley. It's a function that describes how we react to things as they become more human-like. They become more likable, up to a point. Then there's this transition where things are too similar, too close for comfort, where they fall into the uncanny valley.
The unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable.
And this is the danger zone for designers and animators, because they need to avoid making things too lifelike, because that can backfire and make people uncomfortable.
What about the other side of the graph?
On the other side of the valley are the real humans.
Which we like.
Right. And if humans become too robotic, they can fall into the valley too.
Like if someone's had too much Botox and suddenly their facial expressions don't move in the right way near their eyes.
Right.
So the key is to not make robots too human-like and not make humans too robot-like.
And that's precisely what technologists wrestle with.
And what Freud talked about with the eyes.
Yes, which is why a perfect example of something that triggers the uncanny reflex is Google Glass.
No, not that guy. That guy.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Google Glass triggers both types of uncanny responses. Our confusion about things not looking quite human and our fears of surveillance. You might say it's the uncanny double whammy.
So in today's technological jungle, are we always going to be on that edge of the valley?
Definitely. Our technologies will be increasingly lifelike. Sigmund Freud saw this coming. He predicted that the uncanny reflex will be increasingly important to sharpen our awareness and keep technologies like robots, Botox, Google Glass, and whatever comes next from getting too close for comfort.
I'm Tiffany Shlain. I'm a mother, filmmaker. I founded the Webby Awards. And this series is about how the future doesn't start somewhere far off in the distance. The future starts here.